when we say launch a VPC, and then we use a wizard, a VPC is going to be created for us, and the VPC will contain all of these elements. It will contain the subnet, it will contain a NAT gateway, it will contain an internet gateway, and so on and so forth. You know what? Let's go ahead and create our first VPC using the wizard. Let's go ahead. So we'll say launch VPC. All right. So let's click launch VPC and then select a VPC configuration. We want to create a VPC with one public and one private subnet. So what does that mean? This is what it means. Okay, go here. We want to create a VPC, and then your VPC should have one part that is publicly available and one part that is not publicly available, right? You may want to mute yourself. I hear static from somebody's side. So if we call this our VPC, then we want to call this part of the VPC our public subnet. Subnet means it is another network that is part of a bigger network. So that's the public subnet. In this case, the bigger network is our VPC. You know that VPC is a network, right? It's our VPC, and this is the private sub of our VPC. So in that wizard, we are saying create a VPC that has two parts. One is public and should be publicly available, and the other one is private and should not be publicly available. So why would you want to do this? The reason you want to do this for your application is that you want to put here, you want to put in here instances and resources that should not be privately and publicly available. For example, your databases. Database is the most obvious example here. And any other application that you don't want to make publicly available, you want to leave them here. All right? And then you want to leave here applications that you want to make available to the world, that they should be able to access publicly. All right? And for, first of all, can you think of any application, anything on your, as part of your solution that you want the world to be able to access? You want the public to be able to access through the internet. So let's put something here. All right, and then we'll connect that in to the internet. All right. So usually when you have something here, okay, at the edge of your network, at the gate of your network, taking traffic from your internal network and then releasing the traffic to the outside world. This something is usually called the gateway. Gateway. All right. If what it is taking from the internal network is purely internet and releasing that internet, what I mean is, if what this gateway is doing for you is fundamentally allowing you to connect to the internet, connect this network to the internet, then you go call this gateway, call it your internet gateway, right? Your internet gateway. So your internet gateway will be part of your VPC. It's part of the components that would need to be in place for your VPC to work for you to be able to connect to the internet. What's the VPC without internet? Doesn't make sense, right? And then, what about, first of all, I ask you a question. What can you mention just one thing that you want to place on the public network so that people connecting to your solution from the outside world, because the whole idea of your solution is for the whole world to be able to connect. You want to connect to your Uber, you want to connect to your Google, you want to connect to your whatever solution it is that you are presenting to the world, and you want to make one naira from everybody in the world. You want them to be able to access that solution through the internet and come into your VPC where you have the solution installed and made available. So all of these are servers. So on what particular server are you going to have that solution so that people will be able to connect to that solution from the internet? What's this server called?
The front end server.
Web server.
Web server. There is no term like the front end server, as far as I know. It is web server. All right. So web server will be a good example of a server you want to put on, you want to leave the public server, right? So they're able to connect to your web server, or generally, it may not always be web. What's the more general name for web server? Web server just happens to be, may not always be web server, but it will be some kind of server that gives them the front end. I think that's what the other man was trying to say. The front end access to your application. So it's generally called your application server. The application server will be more appropriate. Application server. All right. So you are making sense of your VPC now. Now, what about instances on your private network? The reason it is called a private network is because internet access cannot reach it and it cannot reach internet access. So this man will not be able to access internet. Nobody here in the private subnet will be able to access internet. But if you do need this device, I mean devices on the private network to be able to access internet, how can you achieve that? Okay, how can you achieve the devices from this network being able to connect to the internet? First of all, they cannot connect directly to the internet because it's a private network. It cannot connect to the internet. So it must first of all connect to the public network. And then from the public network, there must be a device here that it connects to. And then this device will now make the private IP address public. Because the private IP address has now been translated to public IP address, it is now able to use the internet gateway, just like devices here were able to directly use the internet gateway. All right, so what is this device that would convert this private IP address, because this guy has no public IP address. That's why it belongs in.
NAT.
Oh,
NAT gateway.
NAT, correct. NAT. This NAT. All right. If this NAT is now in a place where, like this, for example, where you have only one, instead of having multiple NATs represent for each device, it's difficult to put it here. But yeah, NAT gateway, it will now become NAT gateway if there is only one on behalf of everyone else. All right. So the way you said, yeah, NAT gateway is more correct if you understand why you said so. Right. So NAT is correct, and NAT gateway is correct if you have one of them. Correct. So that's a NAT. So this is now you understand the VPC because I didn't even tell you that you already knew that. All right. So it means that when you see